Right, welcome guys. Brett and Immanuel here for a personal finance rant. So today I thought what we'd do is we'd oh, hold on, your video's private. What's happened there? Hold on, wait there. I'll just have to unprivate the video. No. Okay, a bit of a stuff up here. I don't know what's going wrong. No, actually, it's saying it's all right now. That'd be right.
It was going so well.
Yeah, it was. Actually, no, it's my stream that is not private. All right, I'll just have to fix that, guys. But anyway, how about we get started anyway? While you'll just see me clicking away. But yeah, let me just get over this. Wait there. Okay, good. So here we go. Let's make it. No.
Technology.
Yeah, I know. The joys of this. So I can actually see the live stream now on my face. Good fun. But no, okay, so we'll get started. So what we want to cover today, guys, was the first 3 steps. So we've been doing various things where we've been basically looking at a lot of the components that go into what you need to do. Sorry, let me just change that. Okay, so I better not talk because otherwise I've got it up on here. It's going to come through and just reverberate, which we don't want.
I can put into it. We're going to be covering the 3 steps that you need to get started. So we covered these steps in previous videos, shape formats, so we're going to bring it all together in a way that you can understand them in 3 logical, easy steps. What you need to do to start, what you need to do to get moving, and once you're moving, where you're going to get to. So in 3 steps, as easy as 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
So my book is called The 6 Steps to Financial Freedom. We're trying to put things into easy, logical steps. So this is what Brett's trying to do now on the internet to go through different steps to get the video and the streaming working so all you guys can get the information.
And actually, I don't know what's going wrong, but I can see it on my YouTube channel, so I'll assume that it's there. And if it's not, anyway, we've got it on your YouTube channel, so. But anyway, good fun. So yeah, so guys, 3 steps. So look, it's interesting actually, where I always try and keep things simple. And for any of you guys that got kids in the UK, you may have watched a thing called Special Agent Oso. And Special Agent Oso it's a cartoon bear, but what he talks about is 3 special steps. And what he teaches you in every session is whether it be tying your shoelaces, blowing up a balloon, making a cake, whatever it is, breaks it down into 3 special steps. Okay, and he's got a little jingle, 3 special steps is all that you need. Anyway, I'm not going to sing for you. That's not what this is about. But bottom line is that he breaks it down to be really simple. And personal finance and your approach to it should be very simple. Okay, so effectively, what we're going to do today is just look at your first 3 steps and what we feel they should be. And look, yes, within those 3 steps, there are some other steps. So look, we'll get started with the first step. So step 1 is pretty simple, okay? It's read or listen, yeah? It's up to you whether you like reading books or listening to Audible, or maybe you've got your Kindle, sitting, whatever. However you want to do it, okay? Personally, I do Audible because basically when I go for a run, I put my earplugs in and I run and, I plow through the books, yeah? So I was looking about last year, I did 102 books I read, on Audible, which is a pretty cool year. So if you think about that, 102 books, that's 2 per week, yeah? So it's interesting that you can do that. And the great thing about that is gamified, but the point is that I'm able to listen to those. And what I like to do is actually listen to a lot of books and go back and actually study a few of them. So I don't find that all of them I get huge value out of, but if something prompts my interest, I basically take it down on Audible and I listen to it. So, but in this case, and what do you do, mate? What's your preference?
I also like Audible, and I do like reading when I have the time.
Yep.
But the problem with reading, you get distractions, but as you say, when you've got something like Audible, you can hear it, you can stop and start it, you can just carry on where you need to be. And I also do lots of sort of online webinars and seminars.
Yeah.
That's just another way of getting information from different sources. So I like all of that. You know, you all take information different ways, auditory, visually, kinesthetically, but you've got the ability to listen to it. It tends to, for me, because I'm quite auditory to learning, I like to listen to it. It makes it more enjoyable. Like you, I do it when I train, you go running or doing weights. So I find it a very easy way to increase my knowledge.
Yeah, 100%. You know, and I think that's the thing. If you can consume knowledge, and look, you know, I think in the first part, read as many books as you can. You know, you can take the approach that I want to study every book in absolute detail, and you know what? I have no problems with that. You know, because to be fair, in doing that, a lot of times you're actually going to get some bloody good, you know, some really good insights. You know, whereas reading hundreds of books, you know, you can fall into the trap of becoming more focused on getting to your next book than you are to listening to it. You know, the thing I like about Audible too is that I'm able to listen at 1.25 times. And I've found that if I go to 1.5, I can listen to it. And if it's a story, I'll listen at 1.5 times. But if it's something like a non-fiction book that I want to actually digest, I need it at 1.25 times. My brain just doesn't work that fast, you know, or faster than that. But the other thing, there's other apps like Blinkist, okay, or Blinkist, I think it's called actually. And what they do is they summarize books, yeah? Now, my concern with the summarizing books is it's great to be able to say, yep, I've read that book, I've read that book, I've read that book. But unless you're actually going to take it and apply it, oftentimes, you know, hearing the same thing over and over again, actually, rather than just a summary, allows it to bed down, you know, and having those stories that are attached to each of the concepts actually helps you integrate that. So I personally find with Blinkist, I had the membership for a while. You know, I listened to heaps and heaps of previews. They basically take every book down to a 10-minute, you know, summary. But what I found was I wasn't getting anything out of it. It wasn't achieving the goal that I wanted. So you've got to always remember, what is the goal for doing this? Yeah. But anyway, that's anything else to add on that, on the reading side or listening side?
Yeah, on the listening side, unlike you, I tend to listen to things 2 or 3 times at least. Just because when you're doing activities, you know, you're running and training, you miss stuff. So I like to do it over again if you doesn't get it. So 2 or 3 times for me on each one that I go through. Yeah,
100%. Me too. I'm forever going back and thinking, I haven't read that for a while. Like Richest Man in Babylon, I would not be lying in saying that I've probably read that 50 times. You know, Rich Dad Poor Dad, I don't know how many times I read that when it first came out. You know, so these and the point here is, you know, get into that. That's step one, because you want to start gradually changing the way you think. Okay, but these books specifically, for me, have good lessons in them. Okay, and it doesn't mean that you take every lesson out of it. It doesn't mean you take everything out of it. You look at it, you work out how it works for you, and then you apply it. So Richest Man in Babylon, I love it for its simplicity. It's a very simple story. You know, it's set back in olden times. You know, it's just, you know, I read it in one sitting, maybe 2 sittings in most times. You know, it's not a hard book to read. It is almost like reading a fiction book, but the lessons in it are profound. Yeah, Rich Dad Poor Dad. You know, as much as I love the book, the concept I love about it is one concept that I think everybody needs to take out of it, which is that, you know, assets are things that put money into your, you know, bank, and liabilities take it out, you know, and effectively, so people think that, you know, buying the latest, you know, cars and all these sort of things are assets. They're not assets, they're liabilities, you know. So that's a great concept for there, and that's something you need to learn. There's a whole heap of other lessons in there, and I'm not discounting the book. The book is fantastic because he talks about his Rich Dad Poor Dad. What about your lessons from those 2 books, mate?
Well, Rich Dad Poor Dad, I'll start with that one first. That was really like an aha moment that really simplified the difference from going from being an employee mentality to understand how you create wealth through owning a business and investing. So very simple, very easy content for Rich Dad and Poor Dad. It made it very relatable. Obviously growing up very poor and having 3 families that were quite wealthy, that even put it into more perspective. So it was a very simple book, very easy to understand, and really great aha moment.
Yeah.
Richest Man in Babylon was just like an explosion. That, as soon as you read that book, you go, wow, you really are able to create wealth long term. It's a journey. You do the regular steps, you put the disciplines in place, and over time, that will happen. It made it very achievable, very realistic, not a get-rich-quick scheme. Taught me the basic principles and fundamentals about money. So I love that book.
Yeah.
And, I can't recommend it highly enough.
And what about the next one, mate? The 6 Steps to Financial Freedom.
Well, that was quite a good author. That was an author that I know fairly well.
Yeah.
And this name seems to be Emmanuel, who I know is. And that was a book also. When I wrote the book, it was designed to give to a 12 or 13-year-old so they could read it and understand it in very simple English. And that's been the reoccurring comment all the time. People say, I've made a financial book so easy to understand, to read, and to implement. And most people get like the rabbit in a headlight. Against financial books, it's really boring. So I have simplified it as much as possible so people can change what they're doing now, get rid of debt, and get on the road to financial freedom. So it's principles that I've learned in other areas, often things like the richest man in Babylon, Think and Grow Rich, plus my own experience of having a mortgage business, having over 50 brokers and 100 staff working for me, doing thousands of mortgages for people, seeing spending habits, and showing, creating a formula that allows them to get out of that. So that book's a pretty simple book, and it's free. It's available to download on the website. You can download it. There'll be a link afterwards. So that book's a pretty good book.
The link is in the description anyway, so that's fine. They can download it. They can also download my book, which isn't listed here, because my book is much more about once you've got your personal finances, how do you build a property portfolio? So I haven't put it in there. But the point I want to make that I found with the 2 books, because I've been through your book now, mate, finally. Although it's not on Audible. I don't know what's going on. He needs to get in the audio. Then again, neither is mine. So we need to get in the audio chamber and write it. No, but one of the things I found with Rich Dad Poor Dad is excellent conceptually, but trying to take it and apply it, it lacks the practical ability. Whereas I think yours has a lot more practical insight in it, which is quite good, because one of the problems with Rich Dad Poor Dad is you get all motivated and you're like, yeah, I want to get there and I want to do it. But then it's like, well, what do I actually do? You know, because the other thing is if you go and search Robert online, a lot of what he talks about is getting into mutual funds and things that you're like, what the hell are they? Because he's very US centric in some things. Look, the principles are there. You know, he has an excellent, and in fact, probably one of the best board games called Cash Flow, you know, as well, which, you know, used to actually run nights where we used to have, you know, come around, have drinks and have cash flow nights. But I think those 2 books are critical, because this is all starting to build a really good practical and conceptual basis for going forward. Okay. And interestingly, the next one, which is called Think and Grow Rich, which I'm, you know, most successful people will have read. Okay. The interesting thing is with this, and it is a fantastic book, and I love the book, because what it talks about is effectively the author, Napoleon Hill, allegedly, and I say allegedly because there is some thing whether he did or didn't, but he was supposed to have effectively interviewed the richest people who were around at his time, which was back in the 20s and 30s or something. It was early on. Yeah. And effectively, he got the insights that they had and wrote them down, and this is what this book is. Now, look, you can't, even if the story is not right, not true, and it's the same with Rich Dad Poor Dad. Even if Robert didn't have a rich dad and a poor dad, you know, in real life, it doesn't matter. It's the concept behind this, you know, and so Rich and Think and Grow Rich, fantastic stuff, you know, conceptually more than practical as well, but still, yeah, fantastic. What are your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, Think and Grow Rich covered a lot of aspects to do with your mindset, the principles, the things that you have to do on a regular basis, about not giving up, about persevering. In the book, he talks over and over again about the magic formula, that at some point when you read the book, the magic formula presents itself to you. And I just love that you're looking for this magic formula. The magic formula is throughout the book. Yeah. It's like a golden vein. That's like
Mate, you're giving the ending away. You can't say that. You just gave the ending away. Well, even not the ending, the punchline. Spoiler alert.
It's just this magical formula that you get to realise as you go through the book. You see the patterns that emerge over and over again in talking to these successful people, things they've done over a period of time, and it's the steps that you do. And most importantly, the thing that really leaps out is strong mindset, belief, the consistency. The analogy for me is it's like being a marathon runner. You have to go through that marathon to get to the finish line. You've got to go through all of those steps to get to there where you need to be. So it's a really powerful book for me.
Yeah. And the final one's interesting because look, I love the 5 a.m. club, and I love the concept behind it, but for me the whole 5 a.m. thing doesn't work because I've got kids, because my businesses are in the UK and Australia. So in Australia not so much, but the UK means that I'm sometimes awake until 1 or 2 in the morning. So for me to get up at 5 a.m. would be ridiculous. It wouldn't make sense. But the concept about spending, an hour, your first hour of the day, which I think that the book's motto is, control your morning. Oh, you know what? I can't remember. It's something like control your morning, dominate your life, or something like that. Anyway, but the point is to actually set aside some time for yourself. Now, if you think about in one of the previous videos when we talked about apportioning the money, we said pay yourself first. Yeah, which was as soon as you got the money come in, put money aside for savings, for long-time investment. Yeah, and do that first before you do everything else. And this is the same concept. Is that what you want to do? Is you want to put aside time for yourself every morning. It's when your brain is most functioning. It's when you're most alive, awake, creative, all this sort of stuff. You've just slept. So, that's what the book is. And that's the lesson you really want to take from the book. But look, there is lots of lessons there. So it is worthwhile reading that, okay? Even if 5 a.m. doesn't work for you, which, and even in a later slide, you'll see I don't even put 5 a.m. there. I put 6 a.m., But yeah, what about your thoughts, mate?
So it's not... So for me, it's not 5 a.m. It's the principle of gaining an extra hour per day. So if you get up 1 hour earlier than you normally do, and you dedicate that time to focus on things that you need that are really important, urgent, and your own stock development, over the course of a week, and you're doing 5 days a week, that's 5 hours. Over the course of the year, it's over 200 hours. If you translate that to 7 days a week, you've created another 37 days. That's over a month of your life that you've generated with extra things that you can do. So, small acorns grow into big breakthroughs. So 1 hour a day doesn't seem like a lot, but over the course of a month, it's over 20 hours. Over the course of a year, over 200 hours. That's a lot of time that you're going to generate. Now, it's almost 2 hours you generate to another 37 days just over a month. So that's a lot of things you can achieve during that period. So that's a basic principle of the 5 a.m. 5 a.m. is really good work for me. Over the last month, I've been getting up at that sort of time. Not out of choice. But yeah, our principles are good.
Yeah, 100%. So look, that's step one is get into reading and listening. Yeah, and these books, these 5 books here will give you the basis that you need. Now, obviously, a lot of the things that are in there that are pertinent, we've covered in this series, the Personal Finance Rant. So watch the videos, read the books, or listen to the listen to the read the books, I should say. Listen, whatever. Anyway, but so that's step one. Look, step 2 is all about tracking your spending. Okay, so tracking your spending, and it's interesting because Immanuel and I have different approaches to this. Okay, which is that he does 90 days, I do 30 days. Yeah, and look, they will achieve the same thing pretty much. Yeah. I've been doing 30 days for many, many years, So, but the other side is if you haven't watched the video on how to split up your take-home income, which is those 3 models, the 10, 20, 70, the 10, 10, 10, 20, 50, the 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 5, or 50, and if you don't know what that means, go and check out the other videos. We won't go into it because we go into detail with each of those and what that means. But the point is, that's how you actually you split up your income, but it's how you track it. And whether you do that on an app, whether you do that writing it down, whether you do, I mean, it's interesting. I'm doing calorie counting because I'm basically in a phase where I want to lose weight. Okay. So effectively what I'm doing is I'm using my mobile phone, wherever it is, and everything that passes my mouth, whether it be water or food, gets recorded. Yeah, so I know exactly, not exactly the calories because some of it is I'm using the app to decide what calories there are. But the point is, tracking it brings focus onto it and brings acknowledgement of it, and it shows up. And so the point here is, start one is to read and listen to that stuff. So you're putting good stuff in. Step two, through tracking your spending, you're going to see all the issues that are going to come up in how you spend, in what you spend, and you're going to start questioning those things. So yeah, so it's really, really important to track your spending. Anything you want to add, mate?
Yeah, listen, the tracking part is really important because there's a number of things simultaneously. First, it makes you really aware of how and where you're spending your money. Most people don't do that. They spend it through their credit cards, their bank, their debit card, checks, and they don't really track what they spend, just when it goes out without really seeing where it's going and where it's going to. So you can't make changes until you're aware. That's the first thing. Now, when you start tracking something, just like we do with, my Apple Watch, when I do training, my calories and all the rest of it, it starts to motivate you to want to start making changes to get something improved. So that's the first part. When you can see it, you can start making changes to it.
Yeah.
So going through that process, although it is quite difficult to start with, you can really see where your money's leading. It allows you to start making changes fast. So the main difference between what you and I do is I do it over 90 days, track spending patterns over a slightly longer period to cover any anomalies. That's the main.
Yeah, 100%. And I think the key to this, and this is where, you need to be disciplined. And this is where you're going to face your demons. This is where not only are you going to be seeing what you're spending and becoming aware of that, and all of a sudden have to face up to that realization, and a lot of that is to do with your own lack of discipline, your own lack of, focus, your own failings. And it's not just your failings, to be fair. It's actually how society bred you, because, the consumeristic society, it wants you to spend without thinking about it. It wants you to put stuff on credit cards and get into a never-ending debt cycle. So a lot of these issues are going to come up, and life will throw at you, a lot of these curveballs. And this is where you have to stay disciplined. You have to stay focused. As you say, it was routine, wasn't it? Create a routine around it. So 100%. You have to do this. And when you do this, actually, it's amazing how one of the things they say is it takes 66 days to to create a routine. Now, it depends who you believe. There's 30 days, there's 20 days, there's all sorts of numbers as to how long it takes. But the point is what's going to happen is it's going to be bloody hard at the start. It's going to, because it's all new. You don't know what the hell you're doing. You're a bumbling idiot. Then it's going to be in the middle. It's going to be, really, really hard because you're in the point where you're not seeing any results and you're just having to keep doing it. And then the third bit is where actually now you start seeing the results, and now you really start benefiting from it. And that third bit is where that's where you lead to mastery. But if you give up, in the first or second phases, most people, it's still a novelty in the first phase. So look, a lot of people won't get 2 days into this. They'll give it up. They'll find a reason why not to. But it's absolutely essential that you need to do this to bring your awareness into, your finances. Yeah. And part of the tracking and spending is not just tracking and spending, but it's looking at, what income you've got, what expenses you've got, and actually, getting a list of them. And that's why I recommend writing it down in an Excel spreadsheet or on one of these apps. You can get lots of apps in the phone. Some of them will even, import your bank account details. So anything you spend on your cards and that will come into that app. And it's really good. Yeah? So, good. Anything else to add on that?
Yeah, in terms of habits and how long it takes to change, there are different theories around it. But what I like to give is comparisons to sport. So if you want to see a real comparison in sport, it typically takes 4 to 6 weeks before changes start to happen. 8 to 10 weeks before other people see things happen, and probably 12 weeks before you really notice something happening, because you're seeing yourself every single day.
Yeah.
So if you give yourself a 90-day period of doing something on a regular and consistent basis, you will notice massive changes. The truth is that most of us expect things to happen way too quickly. You need time for things to bed in and for things to change. So if you allow yourself that window, which is longer than normal, you'll be pleasantly surprised when you start going through it. I mean, that probably happen faster, but I like to think that's what will happen.
Yeah, and I think, the one point I'll make on that, from my own experience recently, is that I took the decision that I wanted to get back into doing a marathon and half marathons and those sort of long distance adventure racing and things like that. And so I figured, I've been riding my bike, I need to get off my bum and actually do some running. And so what I did in January, I set the goal to run a half marathon by the end of the year, which at the time, if I ran 2Ks, seriously, I had the lung hanging out, and probably wasn't that bad, but I was doing about 2 to 3Ks, and I'd have sore knees and sore this and sore that. But now, so that's January, and given that I actually had 3 weeks traveling in there where I didn't do any running, and then I come back and I was in isolation for 2 weeks, so there was a bit of a gap in the middle. But got back into it, got back on the boat, and actually now I'm running 12 or 15 Ks every other day. Yeah, and that's what we're talking about. That's 3 months. It's more than 3 months now. But the reality is, starting from 2 or 3K to 12 or 15K, and you know what? I'm now 12K. I'm not even gonna say it's easy, because I still do a lung, but not really. But the 15K is the stretch. But now I'm 15K for the next 3 weeks. And then I'm going to go 18K, and then do that. So so I'm on a program where I'm just doing bit by bit, and I want to build up to where I'm doing 21Ks, and I'm not worried about speed. All I'm worried about is distance right now, because compared to some of my mates who are doing 4-minute kilometers, over 5Ks, when they're 40 or in fact turning 50 this year, I'm a slow boat. I'm like an elephant. But the point is, start off slow and you build it up, and that discipline builds up to where you get the result. Yeah. So cool. Okay, so step 1 is read and listen. Step 2 is track your expenses, track your spending. Yeah. And then the third, step is spend your time differently. Okay. And look, what I've done, if you have a look here, we've got 6 to 9, 9 to 6, and 6 to 9. All right. Now, the reality is that gives you, this is not fixed. This is just conceptually again. All right. So let's have a talk about that. So what do we do 6 to 9? So obviously that's before work. That is where we want to spend our extra hour getting focused on ourselves. Spend time on ourselves. And yes, we're going to get to work and we're going to do all that sort of stuff. But we've got 3 hours, where we effectively focus on ourselves, plan and preparing. Then we've got 9 to 6, which if it's your boss controls that time, they control you that time. But and effectively that's where you make a living. Yeah. And then 6 to 9 is where you create a life. Yeah. So that's where you get back into doing whatever it is that's going to make you, whether that be going along to seminars, whether that be reading, whether that be networking, whether that be whatever it is. Yeah. But the point here is, by setting aside times to do certain things, you can achieve the success. I don't know. Do you use a similar thing to this, mate? These timings, or maybe not these timings?
I use it very simply.
Yeah.
Yeah, very simply. So, as you know, every morning I wake up. Normally it's around about 6 o'clock. It has been earlier than that more recently, but I'll get up at 6 o'clock. I will start with my coffee. So I have my coffee, I have my routine, and then I get straight into my workout. So even with the lockdown, I've been working out every single day from around about 6:45 to around about 8 o'clock. That's my time for me every single day, and I'll do that either listening to videos, either on YouTube or Audible. That's my time for my brain and my body simultaneously to work out. So I'm finished by around about 8:15, have my shower, and I'm good to go for the rest of the day. Probably my second coffee around about 8:30, and then I start work. So I'll do my work, whatever I need to do, different businesses I'm involved with, whether it be the hotel sector, development side, buy-to-let stuff. I'm also doing some PPE stuff now at the moment, trying to get some equipment into the UK for the health service. So that's my activity between 9 and 6.
Yeah.
So most evenings, in 6 and 7, or 7 to 8, I'll be on some sort of seminar or webinar to gain even more knowledge, more information in all areas. And then from that period onwards, it's time for home. So either with my son or my partner, spending time on a one-to-one basis. You have to have balance.
Yeah.
It's not just all work, it's not all about health, it's also about family and happiness. So I want to have that balance and that contribution with everybody in my life. So,
yep.
So yeah, I do work to a similar company, and I know you do too.
Yeah.
In a slightly different way.
100%. You know, and I think with this, a lot of people think that they go to work and they're so exhausted when they come home from work that they don't, they need to sit down in front of Netflix. And I have to say, I'm amazed at how many people have almost devoured every bit of content on Netflix. And it's just like, it never ceases to amaze me, because they're the ones that will sit there and say they've got no time to do anything. And yet, and really for me, there's a distinction between those people who go out and do and succeed, and those people who, watch other people do it and perhaps, spectate. And the challenge is things like Netflix, things like social media, things like, if you're either a producer or consumer. I mean, we're sitting in front of the camera right now producing, yeah? We're giving our insights, and part of that is, part of the motivation for that is to help people, and to be fair, that's the biggest one, because really we're spending an hour and a half of our time, to plan, prepare, all that sort of stuff. And we're not really getting remunerated for that. There's not a huge amount of money. Maybe there is, when, YouTube give us lots of clicks and things like that, or, you guys click and watch the ads and, who knows. But the point is there's not actually a lot of money in it, but we're producing stuff. Whereas the people who are watching this, now obviously if you're watching this type of video, fine, but if you're sitting there watching the endless news and the latest, YouTube, I don't know, YouTuber showing you how to, I don't even know what half these things do. My kids have been watching Preston and Brianna, and they play Minecraft. So they're playing Minecraft and my kids are watching these guys play Minecraft, which apparently is a third of all streaming now, is actually people watching people play games, which for me, and I'm sure most of you guys out there, a little bit older, are just like, what the hell, has the world gone crazy? But that's what's happening right now. But they're consumers. So you've got a choice of being a producer or a consumer. Now that doesn't mean you need to go out and get a YouTube channel. But my point is, I've got no problem with consuming content if it's helping you to achieve your goals. But if it's just to reward yourself for going out and doing the basics, like going to work, then I have some questions about it. And oftentimes if I sit down with people and their finances are screwed and they're asking for help, these are questions that I'm going to be asking, about their Netflix, about what do they do with their spare time. Because actually that 6 to 9 period is so fundamental, and there's so many things you can do. I used to have a rule that I was out 3 times a week. I wasn't allowed home. I had dinner out. And what that meant, that didn't mean dinner as in restaurant. That meant I was at a networking event. I was, even door knocking at some points, when I was doing door knocking and things like that, or I was on the phone, or I was, doing stuff to enhance my career, And I think, it's an absolute must. You had something, mate?
Yeah, I love sayings, as you know.
Yeah. And
there's a saying that says, the luck you get is by the harder you work. So people say you're lucky, say now.
Yeah.
The harder you work, the luckier you get. And you've got to put the time in to allow yourself to grow and develop in every single area of your life. So whatever you focus on expands.
Yeah.
You put time into your health, that will get better. You get time into your relationship, that will get better. You put time into your business, that will get better. You put time into education, the knowledge will increase. So any area you put time, effort and energy is going to increase, it's going to expand.
Yeah.
And that's what we try and do on a regular basis, not just ourselves, but help other people in all of those different areas. Whatever you focus on will expand.
Yeah, so I think, guys, look, we can go on forever about this, but the reality is what do you do with those segments? Look, you need to plan what you're doing for the day. You need to be focused on the big tasks. The 80% reward, the 80% rewards, no, the 80% results, not the 20%, So in other words, you need to do the hard stuff, the important stuff, not just the stuff that's easy to do. And I think if you can start with the big stuff, and then half the time you don't even get to the little stuff, it doesn't matter. Most of that stuff will go away. But I think, that's the 6 to 9 period and the 9 to 6 period. No, 6 to 9 period. So the 2 6 to 9 periods, yeah. And then the 9 to 6 is, if you're self-employed like us, then obviously going to focus on your work. And mine's a little bit different. See, I live in Singapore and I've got businesses in Australia. Australia's 2 hours ahead of Singapore. And then I've got business in the UK, which is 7 or 8 hours behind. So for me, my day doesn't start until 4 p.m. in the UK normally, probably 2 p.m. by the time people start getting up and sending emails and things like that. So, so my day tends to go later. So these figures don't necessarily work for me. The concept does. Yeah? So, and a lot of times what I do now is I find that my 6 to 9 actually is more like lunchtime in Singapore, because that's when I'm doing my networking. That's when I'm going out and catching up, having lunches, things like that. Yeah? So you've got to make this. And the point is not the times. The point is putting aside specific times to grow, specific times to network. I said Pacific, didn't I? Specific. Yeah, sorry about that. I do know the word. No, good. But yeah, guys, look, step 1, read and listen. Get the good stuff in. Start getting other people's ideas who've been there and trodden the track that you want to go on beforehand. Track your expenses, because that will start getting your finances into focus. And really, as soon as you do that, you'll start seeing what's right and what's wrong with your situation. It'll be confronting, and as we say, always, get a mentor, get a, social group that you can actually talk to about it. And then finally, spend your time differently, and get these other aspects. Don't leave them as, the last thing that happens. Put them as the first thing that happens. Yeah. Anything else, mate?
Yeah, the only thing I'd like to add is that you'll never be given an opportunity like this again, even though COVID has lots of negative about it. It's given people time to focus on all of these areas, friends, family, and your finances. So take this time, use it. You'll never be given this time again. The government just extended the furlough scheme until October. So there's lots of things actually happening that you can do to plan right now when you come out of this. Yeah. So the more you plan now, the stronger you get come out of this, the more finance you have, and the more the direction you will be able to know where you're going in the future. Yeah,
100%. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, that's it for today. Thanks for joining us, and we'll be back next week. All right. Thanks, mate. Appreciate it, as always. And stay safe, stay healthy, and, well, actually, you can go out a bit more now, can't you? It's a bit more freedom. Although not...
I might actually join one of your jogs remotely.
Actually, that would be quite an interesting virtual jogging. I don't know, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's good.
I don't know. I have enough trouble running with... Sorry?
I do a Zoom training session with one of my friends in LA, one friend over here.
Oh, really?
On Zoom, going to a hit training. It's very fun. So when we do a jog together, I'm in.
I love all the solutions, the virtual solutions now. It's amazing how, and this is with anything, it's amazing how when you're faced with a challenge, the solutions that you can come up with that actually you may not have been even thought of or been aware of or thought you could do before you were faced that with a challenge. So yeah. Awesome, guys. All right. Well, thank you very much. That was one of my cameras just dropped off. So, all right. Cheers. All right, guys. We'll see you later.
Okay.
Bye.
Cheers.